break the glass ceiling. First of all, a very good evening to everybody present over here. Wishing everyone a very, very happy Women's Day. So, despite great progress in recent years, the number of women occupying top tier leadership roles in businesses disproportionately small. According to the new Pew Research Center, women currently hold only 4.6% of executive positions and make up to 16.9% of Fortune 500 board members. There's a very famous quote by Ursula Burroughs, CEO of Xerox Corp. If you're sitting around a table but you say nothing, that's a lost opportunity. Move beyond that and say something about what you have to offer. The reason you are there is because you have something valuable that can be added. So, starting the panel, breaking the glass ceiling. I know I have all you amazing entrepreneurs over here. I think Pallavi is facing some issues. Vaishali, Pragya, Bhavika. It's an amazing opportunity to have you guys over here as our esteemed panelist. With this opening quote, we would like to start our panel. So the very first, shall we wait for like 2 more minutes for Pallavi
Sure.
to be able to join?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how has been your entrepreneur journey? Like how difficult it had been or how easy it had been? I'm sure it wasn't that easy.
I think it has been very surprising and challenging for me the past 5 years, and that's what has been giving me the kick to stay in the war zone for a very long time. But it has been a very exciting journey, very exciting journey.
How about you, Bhavika and Pragya?
So of course it's very exciting, which is why we get up every day and are motivated to do this. I guess every day is a new challenge that we're looking forward to, and we're looking forward to tackle. I think there's a very big rush that we get in, tackling all of those situations, at least personally speaking. So I think every day is a learning experience, and I think the more firefighting we do, we're more involved in the entire process.
So, hi Pallavi, can you hear us? Hi Pallavi, can you hear us? Hi Pallavi. Pallavi, your video is not visible.
Hi. Not visible?
No, Pallavi.
Hello?
I think by the time Pallavi joins back again, it's coming rounding back off again to the same question. What has been the most difficult part of your journey? Like one journey where that was the turning point from where the either the upscale happened or some kind of innovation happened, which is that one point in your entrepreneurship journey which is what has shaped you what you are today.
I'm happy to start this one maybe. I think the most difficult part was just starting up, that's the point of most resistance when I personally had a lot of questions because the decision was to leave, a good paying corporate job with the visibility of having a certain paycheck in your bank account every month, and to let go of that, I think required some amount of courage and positivity, which and post that, I think everything, uh, you know, I think post that, like everyone's saying, you're so engrossed in the business. It's like a roller coaster ride almost every day that It's just a lot of fun if you enjoy what you're doing. And I think the other thing I would like to add is uh, the fact that COVID hit was another, obviously, I'm sure it's for all businesses, like suddenly things stopped for a couple of months when costs still go on. But I think apart from the challenges that experience brought, I think it also brought a lot of, it made us here at Quirksmith a lot more humble to realize our privilege you know, uh, and make sure we could continue to support the people who work with us through those times. And now, thankfully, things are back and, the business is back on track. So all's well.
How about you, Bhavika? I think your sales must have been soaring high during lockdown.
It was, but I think it slowed down eventually. And like Pragya said, lockdown was horrible. It was
Yeah,
lockdown was shifting from Chennai to Bangalore to Hyderabad, and we were just moving stocks and just making sure we somehow get our products out there to the customers who placed orders through the lockdown. And I think that was crazy because I was working right from 8 a.m. in the morning to 11 p.m. in the night, and it was just it was like one thing got over and another thing started. But coming back to your original question, the most difficult part for me as a person in this entire thing was to honestly be just a people's person. You can't be anything without your team. And the kind of person I am, I tend to lose my temper. I am a perfectionist. I will want things done my way. And it's very difficult. If everything was up to me, I would do it myself and I would do it 100%. But it's difficult to get other people to do it the same way, to respect you in the process and understand why you're being so particular. Because I think it's in that process they tend to understand your vision and why you're so particular. One is just to be particular, one is to be particular because you're so invested in this entire business. And I think to get people to see that and not just look at their jobs as just their 9 to 5 job and how they're contributing in the bigger picture is, I think, the most difficult part that I have found, to get other people motivated to do things exactly the way you would do it, just the way that you do it for your own business. So I think that's the most difficult part.
Hey, Pallavi, we are glad to have you back. So just
Sorry
to,
about yeah.
we would actually, I'm very much keen to, know your experiences as an entrepreneur, what has been the turning point in your career, in your journey, which has shaped up, what you are and where your entrepreneurial journey is leading you to. Pallavi, are we audible? I think Pallavi's video has freezed again.
Ankita, I'm sorry I missed a part of it.
Yeah, Pallavi. So we're talking about an entrepreneurial journey, like, what has been that turning point in your entrepreneurial journey, which has actually helped you to shape up that turning point which comes in everybody's career, from where, we just change, we innovate.
Well, I think the turning point in my career would be the time when when I had a baby and I was 4 months into my baby was 4 months and I was really looking for a job closer home because a 4-hour commute was
Pallavi, we've lost you.
and after doing that I had a 4-month baby. Hello.
Yeah, Pallavi, we lost you in between.
Ankita, I think you guys carry on. I will connect in a bit and sort this issue. And I'm disturbing the flow. I think you guys carry on and I will be there.
Sure, Pallavi. How about you, Vaishali? What has been your best turning point?
I think I started my career with M Caffeine, and at a very young stage, just got out of college, had a bunch of 2 to 3 months experience in a company, and then I left and joined M Caffeine. So I think there were two things I would like to say here. One is I mean, as I started very early, my family had a lot of expectations that if you have a graduation from IIT, now that becomes a very big mark for the parents. You should get a corporate job and you should get settled like after a graduation. So I think constantly explaining them that why M caffeine was always going on, and I think over time they understood what I am doing, what M caffeine is at this point of time, and I think now they are very proud, and they happily understand my concerns and share their views on that. So I think that keeps on going for a very long time. Second, I think would be uh, we are a very focused brand. We are a one ingredient brand. We are India's first caffeinated personal care brand. So when if we are so focused, there were a lot of points jahan pe we had to say no to things. We couldn't accept everything. We couldn't do everything. We had to be focused, and to stay focused, there were a lot of areas jahan pe we had to say ki, acha, not this. This is not the right time, probably, or this is not the thing we have to do. And saying no to things is not that easy. When you see that there's an opportunity, probably you can grab and get something, but might not be fruitful for a long-term vision. I think a lot of us probably find it difficult to pause ourselves or hold ourselves at that moment. So constantly analyzing what's the vision, what's our long-term goal, and keeping steps and taking steps according to that was a very, very big, I would say, step in this entire journey.
That's amazing, Vaishali. So, I just remembered one very famous quotation which says that you can and should set your own limits and clearly articulate them. And it definitely takes courage, to when you are empowering, and you need to be liberating. And that is when, I think the entrepreneur journey sets. So, what is your take on this?
Hello?
Yeah, hello. I'm saying, what is your take on, setting up limits? Like, did you ever come across something where you had to set up your limits, and, there were boundaries which were there, which you had to cross across and, do something like in your entrepreneurial journey as a woman? Where you felt that if it would have been comparatively a male contender, he might not have been, it might not have been the same issue or the same thing, like where you
Okay.
consider that you broke the glass ceiling in literal terms.
Uh, I think my upbringing as a child has always been very open, very confident. So I never probably thought of myself as a woman leader in a space, or a woman in a woman management role. I always considered myself as a person in that piece who would have to deliver a certain piece, who would have to deliver in that situation or in that organization. So I think uh, challenging the own self, analyzing, introspecting the own self, and taking steps to keep on improving is I would say challenging my own limits. But I think at M Caffeine we have a very, very open and a very equal ground. So it's never a woman leader or a male leader. It's always leaders. So in that context, I think for me, I don't say I don't distinguish, or I don't compete with probably men, or probably a role, but I think it would be more of an open ground around what is there on the table and how can you contribute to it. So challenging one's own self and becoming better at every step has been a part of my journey, but that comes from a very limited experience I have in the space. I think obviously Pragya and Bhavika would have a much bigger experience and horizon of how their lives have shaped up in this ecosystem.
Yes, I mean that's an amazing journey, Vaishali. And how about you, Bhavika? Like when did like some incident where you just felt that you have broken the glass ceiling? And before we move to you, Bhavika, I would like to announce our community partners, Recopay Brewhouse, Plush, and Return Prime. So stay tuned. We would be sending their offers across very soon. So Bhavika, over to you. Like we would want to know your journey.
Honestly, I've not had any incident. Just like Vaishali said, that there's no I've never felt in any disadvantaged position, to be honest, to feel or have that thought cross my head. So honestly, I haven't. It's just about what you make of the situation. So unfortunately, I have no examples to give.
Amazing. So, Bhavika, just one, how did the headphones own idea come by? Like,
So the thing is, it wasn't my idea. It was my husband's idea. I joined him when he started, and I think we've started it along with Kamna, who also joined at the same time as me, and we started it together. And we've started this from scratch. So there were already retail stores which I wasn't part of, and it was his idea that we should take this online, because at that point of time there were retail stores who were just selling cheap earphones and they didn't really know how to sell it. And then we would approach Amazons and the Flipkarts, and they'd be like, just give us whatever is cheap and whatever is a basic color like black, and more than that no one really cares about earphones. So at that point of time we were like, okay, these people don't know how to do their work, and so we will make a website essentially to do what we want to do and convey what we want to do. So that was, I mean, to keep it short, that's as simply put.
and Pragya, how has been your journey? Like that point when, you were like, okay, this is the glass ceiling that I've broken.
Yeah, again, I think uh, at least with Quirksmith, again there has been, it's a women-led enterprise. I work with my sister. We are the ones who are calling the shots here. So essentially, the sky is the limit of what you want to achieve. So there is no real, gender doesn't come into play within the organization. But there's a funny incident that I always remember from our early days. We work in silver, and Divya and I would have to scout the local market in Bangalore to find vendors to supply us raw materials, silver, chains, etc. And it's not a glass ceiling example; it's just a funny thing. And we would go to these stores, and which are often. It's funny that jewelry as an industry, jewelry as a product is meant for women, but all the businesses around India or even the world are run by men. Quirksmith is one of the very few jewelry businesses, and I think in the last few years, a lot of them have come online. But still, the fraction of jewelry businesses led by women is really small. So we would scout these markets, and men would be sitting at these counters and often treat us as two women out shopping. So that was funny. Where I feel like if there was a man going to buy, a few silver chains would not be questioned, but we weren't really given as much attention, because women are also seen as difficult buyers. They look at 20 things and only buy one, whereas we would go with a very clear agenda in mind on what we wanted, because we were shopping for raw material, we were not buying designs. So that was, I thought, funny. But the thing is, there were a few people who invested their time in us, and now they are one of our biggest suppliers for raw materials. So it also helps to put some trust in women when they come knocking at your door, because you get business eventually out of it. But yeah.
Hey, that's an amazing journey. So there have been like a lot of questions, okay, which like while we were discussing, a lot of people had their questions which they've been posting around. So I would just take a couple of them. So there's Avni who has a question that how did you identify the market gap and how did you approach a difficult market?
Who is this? Question for someone specific or?
I think it's for the panel.
Okay.
Okay. How would you want to proceed? Okay, I think Pragya, would you want to proceed first?
Sure. How did you identify the market gap? How did you approach a difficult market? So I think for us, the thinking was, again, it started from a point that jewelry is always seen as something that you adorn to look beautiful. But we wanted to make meaningful jewelry that was a conversation starter, like that. The fact that it starts conversation is the single most important point of Divya is my sister who designs, of Divya's brief to herself. Every piece that we make, it also comes from, it starts conversations is one thing, but a lot of the work that we do is also inspired by our own value systems, the kind of poetry we've grown up hearing, and a lot of those thoughts and values then translate to the jewelry that we make. So the kind of words that you see are uh, feminist in their own nature. There is one that says Aham Brahmasmi, which means I am the universe, I'm the creator of my own destiny. There's one that says Atma Mukt, which is a Hindi word which means self-love in a way. Khud par mohit hone wala, if I could speak Hindi. So the intent was to create jewelry that was not just seen as a decorative piece for a woman, but it starts conversation and it means something to who wears it. And we stayed true to that core. So with if you look at meaningful jewelry as your market, then it was a completely white space. There was absolutely very few people playing in that space. I think Enna Aluwalia is one of the jewelry designers that I really love, because her jewelry is also about her own experiences. And that's pretty much it.
How about you, Bhagavata?
So it was actually when we started in 2013, it was obviously, I mean, we were very advantaged because we didn't have any competition that time. And we were trying to attempt to do a very specific store selling only headphones for different kind of, categories, so to say. So at that point of time, it was honestly a very large market because anybody who had a mobile phone was a prospective customer. If you see any even auto rickshaw driver is wanting to consume some amount of music, is wanting to watch videos or whatever it is. So I mean, anyone has to do that. They have to use a pair of earphones, right? At the end of the day, everyone has a mobile phone, everyone has now super fast cheap internet. So anybody who has these two things, it's very easy to reach out to those people. Of course, the tougher challenge was to get people to spend more on a bunch of earphones, which otherwise they got free with their mobile phone. So luckily in the lockdown, everyone wanted earphones. And I wish when we started, it was as easy. But luckily it took a lot of effort to get people to find sense in spending a lot of money in an accessory just to listen to music. But I guess that's the idea that we promote, right? At the end of the day, that you need to enjoy your music better. And in that process, you need to upgrade your earphones or your headphones or whatever it is. Or for every purpose or everything that you do in life, there can be like a specific headphone specifically. Like for example, you're using a particular headset that's suitable for work calls. But this is not something that you can use while working out or whatever, or, if you're just out. So I think that's the kind of difference, and everyone who finds sense in it will buy it. But it's as simple as someone having a mobile phone that you can connect and play. That's all. So
How about you, Vaishali?
So in 2016, when we started M Caffeine, M Caffeine is India's first caffeinated personal care brand. We have caffeine in all our products, in all our beauty products. So caffeine was not known to Indian markets, but it's a superfood for your skin and hair. It has amazing antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, which makes it great for your hair and skin. But no one in India was exploring this wonder ingredient. So in 2016, in the beginning, there was an incident after which we started researching about this ingredient caffeine. and we got to know that there's a huge potential in caffeine. And tab koi caffeine ke andar there was no work being done. There were no products. There were one or two products probably which were using caffeine because of the properties, but there was no brand who was actually focusing on caffeine. So when we started M Caffeine, building M Caffeine, we got to know that people connect to caffeine. People understand caffeine. There is already a market which is experiential enough to understand the amazing ingredient, to understand the new ingredients and explore them. And then we started building products. We launched our coffee range. In India, coffee is caffeine, but very few people know that the caffeine is also present in your tea and chocolate. So we launched tea and chocolate ranges as well. We started realizing that people understand the effect of caffeine and they're believing in the brand. Gradually, we expanded our range. It has amazing properties. And as we expanded the range, we saw that the people, our customers are loving us, and they started giving us a lot of our suggestions that, like, we want these products, like Under Eye Cream. Under Eye Cream is one of the products which was launched because our customers wanted us to launch that. It's the main role of an Under Eye Cream is to reduce puffiness and reduce your dark circles, which is the main property of caffeine. And then we launched eye cream. Coffee eye cream, and that's where people started pouring a lot of love for us. So eventually we realized that I think there's a huge potential in the Indian market which is not yet explored by the beauty industry. Beauty industry was not bold, not exciting. Now the brands have become very, very exciting. People are very open to new ideas. So we have crossed the sacred number of 100 crores, but even then we feel there's a huge market out there which we haven't reached yet. And in the next few years, we would be aiming to reach that market. So since I think India hasn't been a very good playground yet, there's a lot of exploration yet to be done. And in the coming years, I don't see that there would be a cap, because I think people, our customers, want more exciting products, more value adding products to their lifestyle, to their personal care. And as we enter into that space, I think we have a huge space there.
That's definitely true, Vaishali. Pallavi, so we were actually discussing that, how did a particular brand identify the market gap, and how did they approach the difficult market situations? So how about you, Pallavi? Like, how did you identify the market gap? How did the Super Bottoms idea come by?
Okay, so Ankita, I think my journey began when my baby had a diaper rash, and I thought that there has to be something that gives me the convenience of a disposable button cloth. Basically, I was asking for best of both worlds, and I started exploring, talking to other parents, all of that, and tried like hundreds of samples on my own child, and that's how Super Bottoms was born. Going ahead, I think our biggest source of inspiration, like Vaishali mentioned, is customers. As in, they reach out, they tell you what they want, they tell you what they don't like about your product, or what they prefer having in the product which you don't have currently. And I think that is how you keep on exploring, finding that gap, filling it up. So I think it's the customers and other parents who continuously inspire you to innovate and bring in new things.
That's an amazing, entrepreneurial journey. So we are at Break the Glass Ceiling panel discussion by Marmito with community partners Recopay, Brewhouse, Plush, and Return Prime. Moving on to the next question. So we have Sanjana Desai, who's asked that, how did you manage to get over the fear of failure when you started out? I think that's one of the major questions, which everybody has in mind, that how did you tackle the biggest failure and what was it? So we can start with Pragya.
Sure. So yeah, the question is, how did you manage to get over the fear of failure when you started out? I think, like I said, um, starting up, the biggest decision point was, I mean, when we started out in 2016 full time, both Divya and I had our full time jobs, and we were doing Quirksmith as a weekend venture where we would go to flea markets in Bangalore, and we did that for almost a year and found that people were really liking the product. So that is when the 2016 decision point came, where I felt like I could give this my 100% and see where this takes us. That was the starting point in our mind. And I think with respect to getting over that fear, I often, and then this happens on a regular basis where you want to achieve bigger targets and become a bigger brand. But I think what really helps is to create really small milestones. So for instance, when I started out, the only thing I had in mind was, can I take care of myself if I do this for the next 1 year? And that meant, just going backwards with respect to, how many pieces of jewelry do I need to sell in a month to be able to earn a bare minimum to sustain myself. That was my starting point. And then that number, when you do the math, it came out to not a very intimidating number. Say, I will have to probably sell 10 pieces in a month or 20 pieces in a month. When you start from that as a starting point, give yourself small targets, it doesn't seem intimidating. Whereas if I had started out thinking I want to build Quirksmith into a multi-million-dollar brand, that would have been intimidating. And then it's like saying, if I have never run a marathon and you tell me to run a half marathon tomorrow, I will probably never start. But if you tell me, start with 3 kilometers, I will probably jump into it. So that applies to anything that you're trying to do, I think. Just give yourself smaller goals.
That's actually true, Pragya. How about you, Pallavi? Like, how did you manage to get over the fear of failure when you started?
So, like Pragya said, breaking down the task into bite-sized pieces and dealing with one piece at a time definitely is one of the best ways to do this, I think. The second thing is, on my personal journey, I said, okay, practically speaking, what is it? What is the worst that could possibly happen? And can I handle it? So I was like, yeah, sure. I think the worst thing that may happen is that, okay, it doesn't work out and I may have to go back to doing what I was doing. And can I handle that? Sure, I can handle that. That just gave me a lot of comfort. And of course, everyone may not have that luxury. But if you have, I think that definitely gives you a lot of, buffer against the fear of failure.
I think the success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing the main enthusiasm. I think that's what I can conclude from from you, Pallavi and Pragya. How about you, Vaishali? Like, how did you manage to get over the fear of failure when you started?
I agree to all of you, all the points you've mentioned, and to add to it, I feel that without failures, it's very difficult to grow. Like I feel that we fail every day at one thing or the other, because that's where you find, how did you fail and what next has to be done to improvise on the things. So I feel that fear of failure should not be there, because if you are entering into a venture, or you're entering into a challenging space, I would say let yourself lose and fail, because it gives you so many learnings when you fail and you get up with that learning of failures. It's such an amazing feeling. I think this 5-year journey, there has been so many ups and downs, and I think that entire piece, I would not even say that I would want to eliminate one of my failures or one of my learnings which helped us come here, because that made us what we are today. So I think I'm a product of my failures more than what I am of my probably I would say, for the lack of better words, success in terms. But I think I would say I'm a product of my failures as of now, because that's what made me what I am. Lot of learnings, lot of new experiences, and I think I laugh at those experiences at this point of time, that okay, I was thinking like this, and this is how I acted. But I think that that makes me very happy and comfortable. Okay, like how much I've graduated now, how much I've learned now. So to anybody who is planning to start a venture or enter into a very, very challenging space, let yourself lose and let yourself fail a couple of times. That helps you grow very fast, helps you learn very nicely.
How about you, Bhavika? Surely, I mean, Vaishali, that's like been an amazing roller coaster ride. That's what I would like to say for M Caffeine. And, I'm surely looking forward towards the beauty products of M Caffeine. I think that's one of the USPs all of us
Absolutely.
are looking towards. How about you, Bhavika?
So like Pragya said, we'd already had some amount of stores. So when you start off, you get some amount of confidence. But to address the question, I think if anyone's starting out, there's a lot of, just to get over fear, at least this is something that works for me, to take calculated risks and take educated decisions, I think is very, very important to get over the fear. I mean, honestly, fear comes in the way of you taking chances. And if you're just going to stay scared, you're not really going to take chances or take any risks, which I think you have to. You can't just, otherwise, you're not going to be able to grow beyond the point. So I feel like when you're starting off, be very sure of the kind of business you are wanting to do. Some things that we applied is that there was, if we started this website, there was no competition at that point of time. So it was a business that had to succeed. So if you see it with everybody, with Super Bottoms or Quarksmith or M Caffeine, no one had competitors, and that's why everyone saw the sense in doing this as a business to begin with. I think the fact that you weighed all of this out and you are very confident of all the business terms that you will be doing, you're very confident of your product and the market that you can reach out to, I think automatically that fear goes out of the way. And talking about fears and day-to-day decisions, it's just about learning. At the end of the day, if you are not sure, like we have a very wide Shopify community. There are times that everyone gets stuck and everyone knows who to reach out to know exactly what the problem someone has already dealt with. So I think take the opportunity to, reach out to the people in the community. I think that helps a lot, because some people are not confident of learning and they feel like this is going to take so much time. I don't have the time to sit and learn. Then the only other way is to reach out to people who have gone through that same issue and know that they will give you the exact direction and, whatever reassurance you need to be able to take the risk to whatever extent that you're comfortable with. So I think that is another advice that I would give apart from what everyone has already said.
So risk taking, according to you, Bhavika, is very important for an entrepreneur journey, and I definitely agree to that. So here I come to a very important question of of all about breaking the glass ceiling. So I think we all have come across this term diversity candidate, which is generally used for female candidates in a lot of MNCs and investment banking firms. So that women are hired in multiple organizations across the globe. However, in some, they are just hired with the tag of diversity candidate, which is just to fill a spot or to comply with an organizational policy, but not for their caliber, potential, and passion. So, what do you think? Like, where is the problem, and how this problem should be tackled with? Like, can we seize this gender imbalance? Can we come to a conclusion where women are hired for their actual potential? Pragya, over to you. Like, we would like to
Sure.
start from you.
Cool. I love all these questions, by the way, and I was hoping to jump into them. uh, so, I mean, it's. I think the first thing is that yes, women are hired for diversity, and they should. It is also important to realize that whoever hires women is also at the end of the day hiring for a profitable line of business, or a line of business with profit as their ultimate motive. So to say that women are hired for diversity and not for their potential is a wrong place to start, because the person making a decision is making a decision for profit. So they will pick the best candidate amongst the pool that they have. That is the first thing. The second thing is that, uh, not everyone is a feminist. A lot of people need to take that journey, especially I feel, uh, the times that we live in. And with that sense, obviously, in an organization, if a woman is hired under the diversity bucket, it is normal for people to, marginalize the smarts that the person brings with herself. But I think that's fine. That's a byproduct of this whole process. But the process should not start. Even then, we should hire for diversity, especially in senior roles, because you need to have people in the senior most levels, making decisions, keeping in mind the fact that genders exist. We are used to seeing the world as a male default. Have you ever heard a child in a class say that name five, like it happened with my niece recently? It's a very interesting example where the teacher asked the class name five carnivorous animals, and children started with lion, tiger, blah blah blah, and then my niece responded lioness. And my sister's initial instinct was to say, oh, you're saying wrong, it's lion. But then you just realize how we are wired to see the world as male default, even in the actual
That's true.
case. So there is so much work to be done to get over this default in the first place. And I think it is important to have women in senior roles to, make decisions, keeping in mind that there are women who work in an organization. There are all genders who work in an organization.
What is your take on this, Pallavi?
I think it is a welcome move. I know it is forced, I have in my old job I have seen people crib about this policy, saying, "Arey yaar, I have to get a woman here," and probably the woman hired in this position may have to try doubly hard because there will be certain bias and all of that. But I still feel that it's almost on the lines of fake it till you make it. I think till it becomes second nature for people to hire, treat women and female and male candidates at the same level. I think we just, if it is if this is what it takes to get women into the system, I think so be it. I think it's fine. I know it's not the best way, but I think if it needs to be done, it needs to be done.
What is your take on this, Bhavika?
Okay, so I will start with a very interesting example. I mean, of what actually happened with me. So I think a year or two, I was asked to be a part of a panel only because they wanted a woman on the panel. So what happened was I could flat out reject it by saying that I genuinely asked the person, "Do you know what I even contribute to this company?" And they said, "No, but you've been there around." And I'm like, "No, that is not enough for me to think that I need to be part of this just for you to fill some kind of quota." Now, of course, I can do this for something as a panel. I don't think women can say, "I will not take this opportunity" when opportunity is scarce. I think that is where the issue is. Just like Pallavi said, that I think if you are getting it, you should take it. Of course, it's hard, but at least it's some kind of start where at least, one is like you expect people to do as they should. And if they don't, then you just put rules in place to at least make them do the right thing. I think that's how it has become right now. But all I'll say is that it's at least moving in the right direction. Of course, it shouldn't be that way because diversity or any kind of quotas are for minorities, which when women are not minorities, there shouldn't be some kind of criteria or quota to fill in the first place just to save face. So I think that, of course, is wrong. But of course, as long as opportunities are being given, I think we should just look at it in that positive way and just let it be at that. And of course, like Pragya said, senior management has to have more females to have that perspective change. And there's a lot of thought process that needs to change across the board. Just like she said, even at home. It's not just in the company. It's just everywhere, right? At home, everywhere that you see, the role models that you have. I think the minute you have a lot more female role models, this problem of not having enough people in senior positions or in, will automatically go away, because it's become normal to see women in that position. And then women, when they are in that position, they can bring about changes. Now to expect whatever the current situation is to make drastic changes is, I think, very far off, to be very honest, as sad as that is. So I would say at least it's moving in some right direction. Even if it's forced, I would say it's still moving in some right direction.
What is
Yeah.
your take on this, Vaishali?
So I don't have a MNC or a big corporate experience. I started very early with MGaffine. So I think with my set of experience, with my limited experience, I feel that the opportunities are expanding. There were not a lot of opportunities earlier, because of which probably there were roles which were specifically kept for women. But now the opportunities in general have expanded. We have a lot of women in the startup ecosystem. We have a lot of women in the leadership roles, and the entire ecosystem is very very supportive of the fact that that they need men and women both to lead ventures, both to lead businesses and give their perspective on things. So earlier, when there were no opportunities, I think situations would be very, very difficult. But in my 5 years of journey, I have not seen those challenges, because I've seen the opportunities expanding every moment at this point of time. There are lots of ventures opening up. There is a lot of support from the ecosystem, and I think seeing numbers, seeing trends in like next decade would be very positive, because there's an impact which is being created. There are moves which are being made in this direction to support women in the entire ecosystem. So I think my views are that I think there's positive side to how this ecosystem is now seeing men and women in the leadership roles, in the management role, and in the ventures. So I think the trends are changing. They are positive, and that's the good part.
That's nice. So, Pragya, what is the difference that you see when you were working in the corporate and right now?
Yeah. See, yeah, good you ask that question, because I think there is a lot of very simple example I'll give you. Women are we are brought up to remain calm, to remain composed, to not raise our voices. That is the qualities of a good lady. But when you go into the workplaces are also designed for men. Like simple things like the criteria to evaluate people. For instance, in my past jobs, I would always be told to be more aggressive. But imagine, like, all your life you're told to be quiet, and suddenly you go into a workplace and you're evaluated to rules that are completely against what you've been taught to grow, while growing up. So I think it's those kind of things that exist in our workspaces that people need to be mindful of and change. I do think it'll take a lot of time to get there. And like Bhavika said, that change does not, like, it is not the onus of profit-making organizations to bring about a change and equality, because at the end of the day, people making decisions are making it to make a to make a profitable company. And in that situation, if a manager has to make a decision between a woman or a man, and especially a woman who's in an age where she could give birth in the next few years, it already puts her at a very different starting point. So I think the change has to come in the house as well, to not see women as the primary caregiver, which I think is the step where wage gap becomes the highest between men and women. And that caregiving responsibility, like women have to be seen more than just primary caregivers. And even if they are primary caregivers in the house, or they are they are homemakers, people have to realize that there is a cost, there is a price tag to being a homemaker as well, which is often ignored, in the larger scheme of things.
That's like that. I think that actually sums up the journey for a lot of corporates. I think even I can relate to whatever you spoke about. Uh, so I mean that is something where I often feel that the word feminism for feminine gender came, but why there is no word for the masculine gender? Because I think they have been dominating throughout, and it's the females who have started coming right now since I think the last few years. So Bhavika, what is the best part of your day every single day? Like for the best moment of the whole day, apart from definitely checking the accounts and seeing the amazing numbers which is entering your bank.
I don't know. I mean, I just feel very happy the day I actually finish work at 6:37, where everyone is sorted, no one's sitting on my head. Honestly, there's like a lot of peace of mind that I value right now after I got married, to be very honest, because that balance where you can actually stop working and just shut out and just like be on your own and do other things. I think for me that's a very, because in my head that's less stress. I have attended to everybody's questions, because this is what happens. You start the day, you're dealing with everybody, and okay, this is priority, attend to this, attend to this, attend to this. At the end of the day, you follow up, you check everything, and I think that's where at least my OCD is very pleased, where I have sorted out everything and I can end the day on time. And I think that's what it is at the end of the day. It's, of course, earlier it would be very nice to be in office with everybody, and you have a good time, and there are like ups and downs through the days. But I'm talking from recent experience with work from home. Of course, there would be a lot of good moments with the entire team together, where we would actually have a very big TV in office, where we used to see the sales every day, how many orders we've done. When we got like this ridiculous order of 2 lakhs from a customer, and we're like, why the hell has he spent so much money? But the point is that earlier it would be that you're valuing the time that you spend as a team together. But right now, I just prefer the fact that everything is sorted, everything that everyone needed from me is sorted, and it's done. And everything is like a normal day. Everything has gone through with no crisis. You can sleep peacefully. And I think that's so underrated. Because I used to dream about work like in numbers and issues, and for me, it's probably more important than anybody. So I think that is my highlight, where you finish on time, everything is sorted, and you don't have work dreams. You have time for yourself, which I think is very, very important, because the more time you have for yourself and you can do something, is your outlook towards work changes. That's how motivated you are to do the next day, and how how open you are to deal with each and every problem that comes your way. I think it's very, very important. Otherwise, you're just mentally and physically exhausted.
So what about you, Pallavi? I think a lot of moms must be blessing you for the kind of products you are dealing with. So what's the happiest, best part of the day?
Well, of course, the numbers and the business, of course, it puts a smile on your face when you wake up to see, oh, that feeling is amazing. But what we started in the most of our team members are mothers, new mothers especially. So to put it, less than 10% men in our team, and we have this morning call, where and video on is a compulsory policy. Sorry, I have put it off now, but it's because of the network. And often we see that the babies come in, barge in the video and start saying, doing something and asking for breakfast. And it is such a beautiful feeling to see that entire team is online. We are talking things, and then there are babies pitching in and talking about, what I want to do, or pulling the mama's hair, and she's like, oh, please let me do this call. I think I love those moments. I think that really is the highlight for me for the day. and not it of course gives you a lot of satisfaction that this has happened with Super Bottoms, but I think it is just always babies and kids are always lovely to have all around. So yeah, so I think that is what I would say is the highlight for me.
Oh, that's amazing, Pallavi. Pragya, I must say that your earrings are really beautiful.
Thank you.
They are. I'm going to buy them now. I hope they are there on Portsmouth.
Yes, they are.
So, which is your happiest day apart from getting compliments for the jewelry?
So I work with my sister, and we're very close. The best part of my day is to have a cup of coffee with her in the morning, where we chat about things, not just work, but you know, a lot of other things. We also have a little ritual that we do sometimes, where we uh, play this game. Not really a game, where we talk. Kind of, it's again a conversation starter where we talk about a rose, a bud, and a thorn. A rose is essentially something great that happened in your past day or week, depending on when you're talking about this. Thorn is a bad experience, and bud is what are you looking forward to. And I think these kind of things just initiate really interesting discussions that I often look forward to.
That's amazing, Pragya. What about you, Vaishali? So I think apart from okay, so let me also say apart from making people smile and drool over your coffee was the best moment.
I think a couple of moments. So we are a very young team. The average age of the team is 23. So our team is very young, and everyone is very energetic, very uh, 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 humorous, very lively. So and we love to tease each other. We love to joke. We love to sit and chat over coffee again, with sometimes with on our faces or in the cups, however it is. So we generally reach office early, and we prefer having breakfast with the team, whosoever is like yet to have the breakfast. So that's the time when everyone is just planning their days, understanding how is it going to do, what are the numbers. I think that's a very good time. It's a very uh, great start to the day, seeing the entire team so pumped up and ready to fill their cup of coffee and start working. So I think that's one. Second is we get a lot of customers coming out to us regularly with very nice, very sometimes funny experiences. Like a coffee body scrub, it smells like coffee. It smells like coffee. It's raw Arabica coffee. So a lot of our customers get confused whether like they can also use this coffee in their drinks. And a couple of queries which we received were around this, that we have used it in our drinks. Would we be fine? And we just tell them, yeah, you would be fine, but we prefer use it on your body. So like when these really nice, funny experiences are shared by our customers, that's the best moment for the entire team, and we love sharing these moments with the entire team. So I think for me it would be these two.
That's like, I mean, that's like a whole bunch of experiences. So, like, as we are now driving towards the end of the panel discussion, here comes my favorite question. So, how's been your experience on the panel? Like, oh, I always love listening to praises about me.
You have
Thanks
been
for that hint.
amazing. You have been amazing. And I think the panel also
Yeah.
has been amazing. I love hearing views, thoughts of Pallavi, Pragya, and Bhavika, and it has been it has been a learning experience for me to understand their experiences, their broad experiences, because my set of experience is very limited. So I think that has been great for me.
How about you, Pallavi? I know you joined a little late.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
technology decided to not support today, but I think, the limited time I got here, I think it was amazing to hear you guys. And Ankita, it was very well conducted, I think.
Oh, I told you, I just really love, I mean, I
Yeah.
always,
So I
I'm
made.
my favorite.
Yeah, thanks. I'll
How
also
about you,
put in
Pragya?
my 2 cents, but yeah, thank you so much, Ankita, and thanks to everyone. Like I said, I had met Bhavika before, but it's also nice to meet the two of you here, and I'm definitely going to stay in touch. It's really
Absolutely.
exciting to see and really inspiring to see the work that all of you are doing. And Pallavi, I was especially touched by your, kids coming on work calls. I think we need to normalize the fact that people have
Yeah,
families.
yeah, absolutely.
Men have the luxury to ignore, have traditionally had the luxury to not be seen as a family person. But I think we need to normalize it, and it is good for all of us. So thank you for this amazing discussion, Ankita and Marmeto. And thank you to the audience for all the lovely questions.
Thank
How
you,
about
Ankita.
you,
I
Bhavika?
think it's very nice, the initiative that you all have taken, and I'm very happy to be part of a panel where I'm just not filling a seat. To be very honest, I'm very happy to be a part of this panel with all the lovely ladies on this panel. So thank you very much, and I think it was very well conducted. I think. Panels on feminism and Women's Day can go in a very different direction, like I said, but I think it's been a very healthy discussion.
So I'm actually thankful to Marmato and all our partners, Rekape Brewhouse, Plush, and Return Prime, for supporting us throughout the panel. And special thanks to Pragya, Bhavika, Pallavi, and Vaishali for taking out time for attending this panel. There's a small announcement. So, as promised, that you attend and we donate. So, we have chosen Snehalaya organization to donate a certain amount on per attendee basis. So after post the panel, we would be taking out the attendance list and we would be donating a certain amount to them.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
amazing, interacting and being a part of moderating the panel. And I would look forward to more such panels.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Pragya.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Bhavika. Thank you, Pallavi. Thank you, Vishali.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ankita.
everybody who attended.